March 19th, 2026, 3:47 a.m. local time. Iranian cruise missiles hit 3 separate targets in 2 different countries within an 8-minute window. Al-Zour refinery in Kuwait, Ras Tanura export terminal in Saudi Arabia, Aramco's Abqaiq processing facility. Again, not one strike, not one country. Simultaneous precision attacks across 600 kilometers of Gulf coastline while most of the region was asleep. Let me tell you why this changes everything you thought you understood about how wars expand. The missiles didn't come from Iran. That's the detail that should make every defense planner in the region resign immediately. Iranian cruise missiles launched from Iraqi territory, from Syrian territory, from positions inside Yemen, not from Iran itself. Iran just demonstrated it can strike Gulf oil infrastructure from multiple vectors simultaneously without firing a single missile from Iranian soil. That's not an escalation. That's a new operational capability that makes the entire defensive posture of Gulf states obsolete overnight. Let me walk you through exactly what happened, because the technical details matter more than the headlines. Kuwait's Al-Zour refinery, processing capacity 615,000 barrels per day, hit by 2 Pavé cruise missiles, range 1,650 kilometers, speed Mach 0.8, terrain-hugging flight profile at 50 meters altitude. Launch origin traced to western Iraq, Al-Anbar province, approximately 480 kilometers from target. Flight time 38 minutes. Kuwaiti air defenses detected the missiles 6 minutes before impact. Patriot batteries engaged. Both interceptors missed. The missiles hit processing units 3 and 5, causing fires that burned for 11 hours and took the entire facility offline. Saudi Arabia's Ras Tanura, the world's largest offshore oil loading facility, capacity 6.5 million barrels per day. Hit by 3 Shahed 238 cruise missiles launched from northern Yemen, were 200 kilometers south of target. Flight time 94 minutes. Saudi F-15s scrambled to intercept. They never acquired the targets. The missiles flew a circuitous route over the Red Sea at wave-top altitude, below radar coverage, then turned east and struck the marine loading platforms from an unexpected vector. 2 platforms destroyed, 1 damaged. Export operations halted indefinitely. Abqaiq, Saudi Arabia's most critical oil processing facility, 7 million barrels per day processing capacity. The same facility Iran hit in 2019, hit again with 4 Pavé missiles launched from Syrian territory near the Iraqi border, 100 kilometers northwest of target. Saudi air defenses were focused on threats from the west and north, from Iran. These missiles came from the northwest, from Syria, different angle, different radar coverage zone. By the time Saudi systems reoriented, 2 missiles had already impacted. The other 2 were intercepted, but the damage was done. Processing Unit 12, the facility's highest capacity stabilization tower, destroyed. Estimated repair time, 4 to 6 months. 8 minutes, 3 countries attacked, 4 facilities hit, missiles launched from 3 different nations, none of them Iran. Total refining and export capacity taken offline, 14.1 million barrels per day. That's 14% of global oil exports removed from the market in 8 minutes. The oil price spiked $23 per barrel in the first hour of trading when Asian markets opened. Brent crude hit $127, West Texas Intermediate hit $122. And those prices will climb higher because the market hasn't processed the strategic implication yet. This wasn't about destroying oil infrastructure. Iran can do that anytime. This was about demonstrating that Gulf states cannot defend their oil infrastructure even when they know attacks are coming, even when defensive systems are active, even when early warning provides minutes of alert time, because the attacks are coming from directions that weren't defended, using flight profiles that weren't anticipated, from launch sites that weren't monitored. Here's what I need you to understand. Iran doesn't need to launch missiles from Iran to destroy Gulf oil production. Iran has proxy forces, allied militias, and forward-positioned assets in Iraq, Syria, Yemen, and Lebanon. Every one of those positions can host mobile missile launchers. Every one of those positions puts Gulf oil infrastructure within range. And every one of those positions creates a separate defensive problem that Gulf states cannot solve simultaneously. Kuwait's air defenses are oriented toward threats from the north and east, the Iraqi border, Iranian airspace. When missiles come from western Iraq, from Al-Anbar, they're coming from an angle that Kuwait's Patriot batteries aren't optimized to cover. The radar coverage is there, technically, but the intercept geometry is wrong. The missiles are flying parallel to the Saudi border at low altitude. By the time Kuwaiti systems achieve lock, the missiles are already in terminal approach, 90 seconds from impact. The intercept window is too narrow. The math doesn't work. Saudi Arabia has the most sophisticated air defense network in the Gulf. Patriot PAC-3 batteries, THAAD systems for high-altitude intercepts, early warning radars positioned across the kingdom, total investment over $80 billion in the last 15 years. And 3 missiles from Yemen just flew 200 kilometers, stayed below radar coverage for most of the flight, and hit the world's largest oil export terminal without being intercepted. Not because Saudi systems failed to detect them, because detection doesn't equal interception when the target is flying at 50 meters over water and your interceptors are designed for high-altitude threats. The Shahed 238, that's Iran's newest cruise missile. Sea skimming capability, meaning it flies just above wave height, 10 to 15 meters altitude over water. Radar horizon at that altitude is approximately 15 kilometers. A coastal radar station sees the missile when it's 15 kilometers away. At Mach 0.8, that's 70 seconds of warning. A Patriot missile requires 30 seconds from launch to intercept. That leaves 40 seconds to detect, classify, authorize engagement, and launch. It's theoretically possible. But when 3 missiles are coming simultaneously from different azimuths, the system gets overwhelmed. You can intercept 1, maybe 2. The third one gets through every time. Abqaiq was supposed to be the most defended oil facility on Earth after the 2019 attack. Saudi Arabia positioned additional Patriot batteries around the facility, installed shorter-range Shaheen systems for close-in defense, deployed early warning radars to extend detection range. The defensive envelope was comprehensive, and 4 missiles launched from Syria just punched through it because they came from an unexpected direction. The defenses were optimized for threats from Iran, from the east. These missiles came from the northwest. The radar coverage existed, but the battery positioning was wrong. By the time Saudi operators realized the threat vector, 2 missiles had already hit. Let me show you the mathematics that explain why this defense problem is unsolvable. Saudi Arabia has approximately 850 critical oil infrastructure sites, wellheads, processing facilities, pumping stations, export terminals, refineries, storage tanks. Defending all of them simultaneously would require approximately 400 Patriot batteries with overlapping coverage. Saudi Arabia has 38 batteries. The United States has 60 batteries deployed globally. There are not enough Patriot systems in existence to defend Saudi oil infrastructure comprehensively. The numbers don't work. They never did. Iran knows this. Iran has known this for years. The simultaneous strikes on Kuwait and Saudi Arabia weren't demonstrating that Iran can destroy oil facilities. Everyone already knew that. The strikes were demonstrating that Iran can destroy oil facilities from multiple countries simultaneously, making it impossible for Gulf states or the United States to retaliate effectively. Because who do you bomb in response? Iran didn't fire from Iran. Do you bomb Iraq? That destabilizes the Iraqi government and pushes Iraq further into Iranian influence. Do you bomb Syria? Russia operates air defenses in Syria. That risks direct confrontation with Russian forces. Do you bomb Yemen? The Houthis are dispersed across a country with no central government. There's no target set that matters. This is the trap Iran just sprung. Gulf states cannot defend their oil infrastructure. They cannot retaliate against the launch sites without creating bigger problems. And they cannot survive economically if attacks continue. Kuwait's entire economy is oil, 90% of government revenue. When Al-Zour refinery goes offline, Kuwait loses $37 million per day in refining revenue and has to import refined products to meet domestic demand. That's economically unsustainable within weeks. Saudi Arabia's calculation is even worse. Ras Tanura exports 6.5 million barrels per day. At $127 per barrel, that's $825 million per day in export revenue. Offline indefinitely means Saudi Arabia is losing nearly $1 billion per day. Abqaiq processes 7 million barrels per day. When processing stops, the oil that's being extracted from Saudi fields has nowhere to go. It goes into storage tanks. Saudi Arabia has storage capacity for approximately 45 days of production at current rates. When the tanks fill, production has to shut down at the wellheads. And restarting production after a shutdown takes months and costs billions. The global oil market operates on razor-thin spare capacity margins. Total global spare production capacity is approximately 2.5 million barrels per day, almost all of it in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. The attacks just took 14.1 million barrels per day offline. There is no spare capacity that can replace that volume. The market doesn't balance, prices spike, and they stay spiked until the facilities are repaired, which takes months minimum, potentially years, for the Abqaiq stabilization tower. Here's the scenario that keeps oil traders awake. Iran just demonstrated it can take 14 million barrels per day offline with 8 missiles. If Iran launches 80 missiles at Saudi Arabia's top 10 facilities, the kingdom's entire export capacity goes to zero. No oil leaves Saudi Arabia. The global economy loses 10 million barrels per day of supply that cannot be replaced. Oil prices hit $200, $250, possibly $300 per barrel. Gasoline in the United States goes to $8 per gallon. Europe faces energy rationing. Asia's manufacturing economy grinds to a halt. And there is no military response that restores Saudi oil exports because the facilities are destroyed and repair takes years. That's not a hypothetical scenario. That's a capability Iran just proved it possesses. And the only thing preventing Iran from executing that scenario is the decision not to. Not American defenses, not Gulf military strength, Iranian restraint. That's the new reality. Gulf oil flows because Iran allows it to flow. And Iran can turn it off whenever the strategic calculus changes. The attacks also shattered the assumption that American military presence in the Gulf protects oil infrastructure. The United States has 35,000 troops in the region, 5 Patriot batteries, THAAD systems in UAE and Saudi Arabia, F-22s, F-35s, destroyers equipped with Aegis missile defense, and none of it stopped 8 Iranian cruise missiles from hitting 4 facilities in 2 countries. Not because American systems failed, because there are too many targets and not enough interceptors. The Pentagon is briefing the president right now on response options. And every option has catastrophic downsides. Strike Iranian missile production facilities inside Iran. That triggers full Iranian retaliation against all Gulf oil infrastructure. The entire region goes offline. Strike Iraqi militias that hosted the launchers. Iraq's government protests, demands American withdrawal, and we lose our remaining bases in Iraq. Strike Syrian positions. Russia intercepts American aircraft with S-400 systems. We're in direct confrontation with Russia. Strike Yemen. The Houthis disperse and continue launching. Nothing changes except we're bombing one of the world's worst humanitarian disasters and galvanizing regional support for Iran. There's no good military option. There never was. The geography favors Iran. The target density favors Iran. The cost exchange ratio favors Iran. A $2 million cruise missile just took offline a facility worth $50 billion. The attacker is spending nothing. The defender is losing everything. Gulf states are making calculations right now that they cannot speak aloud. The calculation is simple and brutal. America cannot protect us. American defenses cannot stop Iranian missiles. American retaliation cannot deter Iranian attacks. The alliance we built our entire security strategy on is not providing security. It's providing the illusion of security, and illusions shatter when missiles hit. Kuwait is having quiet conversations with Tehran right now, not official diplomatic channels, back-channel intelligence contacts. The message Kuwait is sending: we don't want to be involved. We didn't authorize the use of our airspace for American strikes against Iran. The attacks on our territory are punishing us for something we didn't do. If we guarantee neutrality, will Iran guarantee our oil infrastructure? Saudi Arabia is having the same conversation. So is UAE. And Iran's response is consistent. Your oil infrastructure is safe when American forces leave. Until then, every facility is a target. The 48-hour ultimatum Iran delivered 3 weeks ago is still active. The deadline passed. Gulf states didn't comply. Now they're experiencing the consequences. And the consequences will continue until compliance happens. The nightmare scenario for Washington is this. Gulf states conclude that they cannot survive economically under sustained Iranian attacks and negotiate separate deals with Tehran that exclude American input. Saudi Arabia guarantees no American offensive operations from Saudi territory. Iran guarantees no attacks on Saudi oil. UAE does the same. Kuwait does the same. Qatar does the same. Suddenly, American military access across the Gulf evaporates, not through Iranian military victory, through Gulf states choosing economic survival over American alliance. That process is starting right now. The simultaneous attacks accelerated it because they demonstrated that Iranian threats aren't empty. Iran can do exactly what it says it can do: destroy Gulf oil infrastructure from multiple directions without firing from Iranian territory anytime it chooses. The oil markets are processing this slowly because the full implications are too destabilizing to price in all at once. But oil analysts are writing reports explaining to investors that Gulf oil supply is now a political variable controlled by Iranian decision-making, not a market variable controlled by supply and demand. If Iran decides to escalate, 20 million barrels per day of oil exports disappear. There is no hedge against that. There is no alternative supply. The global economy is running on Iranian permission. Share this video because mainstream media is showing you the explosions and the damage assessments. They're not showing you the strategic checkmate that just happened. Iran didn't just attack 2 countries. Iran demonstrated that it controls whether Gulf oil reaches global markets. And there is no military counter that changes that equation. The missiles are mobile, the launchers are dispersed across 4 countries, the targets are too numerous to defend, and the cost to attack is negligible compared to the value destroyed. Gulf states are going to comply with Iranian demands. Not today, not publicly. But compliance is coming because the alternative is economic collapse. And when compliance comes, American military access to the Gulf ends. That's not a prediction. That's the logical endpoint of a situation where defenders cannot defend and attackers can attack at will. The balance of power didn't shift, it collapsed. And 8 missiles in 8 minutes just proved it.